Like, I know everybody says this, but I don't know where November went. It like came and went, and we're already in December. So it's time for a wrap up. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is my November wrap up. You may have noticed I moved back because I'm not shooting at a weird time where the sun is like shining in my face. So a little bit back to normal this week. I hope everybody had a safe and happy holiday and all that stuff. November for me was kind of a whirlwind. Like, I went into November thinking I'm not going to be able to get a lot of reading done. I wasn't really feeling myself. And then I got bombarded with freelancing contracts. If you don't know, I freelance as a beta reader and a proofreader and inline editing, and I do all that kind of stuff. I spend a lot of time reading other people's stuff for them, and so I don't get a lot of like time to leisurely read. And also I get tired of reading after a little bit, and so leisurely reading doesn't always hit the spot for me if I have a like really heavy contract load that month. With all that being said, I did end up reading quite a bit of books this month. I was really surprised actually when I got down to making my list for today. Like, I was very surprised and very happy for myself, but also have to keep in mind that like everything I read was super duper short. Without any more further ado, let's talk about the books I read in November with the ratings. Okay, so if you remember back to the November maybes, I said that I wanted to continue the Wicked Villain series by Katee Robert, and that if I didn't end up having like the time or mental space to handle that she has a couple of short stories that she's written to go along with the Wicked Villain series. So if you would like to access those short stories, if you go to Katee Roberts' author page, like her webpage, and you sign up for her newsletter, you can get all of her short stories for free. That's one way to do it. You can also there's a book that she published that contains all of her short stories for each of the series that she's written. You can also purchase that if you would like. So, two of the short stories I read, Desperate Measures short stories, focused around Jasmine and Jafar, which is what book 1 in the Wicked Villain series is about. So I think there's 3 in between book 1 and book 2, all about Jasmine and Jafar and everything like that. So I only read 2 of those. The first one I read was Meg's Apology, and this one was super short. It was like 5 pages, so it was like really easy to read. I didn't love it. Basically you have a little moment between Jasmine and Jafar, and then Meg comes in and apologizes to Jasmine for her discretions, basically. I didn't find it that exciting. I ended up giving it 3 stars, but there was a really tender moment between Jasmine and Jafar that I absolutely loved in this short. So, I mean, yeah, if it had been any longer, I think I would have been disappointed, but it was fine. The second one I read in the short stories was Jasmine's Winter Solstice. This one was comparatively to Meg's Apology, this was significantly longer and significantly better, and it made me happy. It made me very happy. There was some really great play in this little short story, and it hit all the spots. It really just came full circle for Jasmine and Jafar, and I really just love catching up with these old characters before I moved on further into the series. So I ended up giving this little short story 4 stars, and I definitely liked it better than Meg's Apology. The next book I read in November was Moonflower by Elira Firethorn. This was a novella. It was marketed as a Halloween novella, but like it wasn't scary or anything like that. It was very smutty, and there was a lot of sex in it, and it was very enjoyable. This is a switched point of view story, so we're getting 3 stories here. We have Cora, and then we have Cora's best friends, 2 boys whose names I cannot remember right now, that she grew up with. Well, Cora has a really big secret, and it's that she's in love with both of these boys desperately. So she distanced herself from them because she doesn't want to be with either of them unless they're together, and she's afraid that it'll ruin their friendship. One of the boys finds out that she feels this way, and they confront her on Halloween weekend and make all her dreams come true. There is a lot of fun play in this book. Like, if nothing else, read the trigger warning for this book, because if you're like me, I read the trigger warning as more of like a menu for what's being served at the party. Okay? And this trigger warning is heavy with lots of exciting things. I will come on and tell you there is CNC play, which is consensual non-consent play, but the way that this writer did it, fantastic. Fantastic. Like, I've read CNC play a lot. It's not my favorite because I'm always afraid that the other member of the party does not always know it's completely consensual. Do you know what I mean? Like, usually we're in the main character's head, and so we know, as a reader, we know that it's consensual. Does the other party know it's consensual? I feel like there's a really fine line there. And I really hate towing that line because it makes me just feel a little uncomfortable on the inside. Because I don't always know for sure if that other party knows it's consensual. And that is like a complete shift for me. So this writer did such a good job with the CNC play. I was so very impressed because I knew without a doubt everybody was on the same page. So this was just a smutty little fun read, very spicy. At the heart of it, there was just this super tender little poly love story that just made my heart want to burst. Okay, I loved all of these characters. I will tell you, they're in college, like their final year of college, so they're not like underage or 18 or anything like that, but they're not like full-fledged adults either. This one was really fun. Elira is also an indie author, and you can get this book on KU, Amazon. You can get it wherever you get stuff for your Kindle. It'll be there. The next book I read was One of Us is Dead by Jeneva Rose. This was chosen for my book club, and I was super excited because I follow Jeneva on TikTok, and if you know, you know. So I've been meaning to read her books, but it's just like, they always just kind of slip my mind. So I was super excited when this came up in my book club to read, because I was finally going to get to read a Jeneva Rose book. I was not disappointed. This book focuses around a salon in a very well-to-do kind of southern money town. Basically, we have a salon owner, and at the beginning of the book, we find out someone that frequents her very exclusive salon ends up dead. And so the whole book, we're like piecing together everyone's stories, trying to figure out who's the one that died and who's the one that killed her. This is very like housewivey, like Desperate Housewives, catty, petty, gossipy. It's very like rich white people problems. If you like reading stuff like that, it was a fun read. It became very obvious to me who was the one who was dead, but as we got further into book, I was like, everybody has so much motive that I have no idea who went through with it and who actually did the deed. It kept me guessing until the final page, and I couldn't put it down. I mean, I read straight through it. The pace was really good. If you like this type of genre, I think this really worked. It was fun. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And the reason I didn't give it the 5 stars is because it's not generally my favorite type of content. Like, this is not the type of books I typically read. And because, you know, I mean, it was very stuffy, snobby, rich people complaining about their problems, basically, that they caused on themselves. So because it's not my favorite genre is why I got like a little knocked down, but it was still really good. The last book I read in November was Moon of the Crusted Snow by Waubgeshig Rice. I honestly didn't know if I was going to have time to read this book because we were coming up on like the last 4 days of November and I hadn't read it yet. Luckily, this book is super short, and luckily it was super engaging because I flew right through it. Like, if I had started it, I started it when I was like doing holiday stuff, so I was kind of like going back and forth. If I had sat down and started it on a day when I had nothing going on, I would have finished it in one day. This is a very post-apocalyptic style book, but set it in Canada on a First Nations reservation. There's a lot of trauma in this book, a lot of generational stuff happening in this book, a lot of cultural stuff happening in this book on this Indigenous reservation. But we also have this kind of glimpse into how Indigenous cultures typically already live this semi-self-sustaining lifestyle, which I found to be very interesting. Basically, we open up on an Indigenous reservation, and it all kind of starts really slowly. Like, first, the phones don't work, and the satellite TV doesn't work, and it's like, oh, well, you know, sometimes that happens up here, and then eventually the power goes off and it never kicks back on. And that's when everything kind of starts happening. And because they're so far removed from like standard civilization, I would say, they don't actually know what's really going on outside of what's happening to them, because again, there's no phones, there's no way to communicate with anybody. They don't really know what's happening until people start showing up. This book was just a whirlwind, honestly. Like, if you like post-apocalyptic books, if you like that kind of survivalist edge to your novels, and then you throw in all this Indigenous culture and heritage and trauma and generational stuff, it was really fascinating to me, and I loved the post-apocalyptic vibe of it. It really kept me on the edge of my seat till the end, because things do begin to happen within their community that really just make it almost feel thriller-ish, which was really, really cool. When I started this, when I picked this book out, I did not know that it was part of a series. Because y'all know me in series, I can't finish them. And even worse, it's not out yet. The second book's not out yet. Like, they've said it's coming, but it's not out yet. So I can't even read it right now if I wanted to, which I want to, because the way that the first book ended, it didn't end on a cliffhanger, but they did a lot of really great setup in this book for a sequel. Like, when I'm looking back on it now, I'm like, there was a lot of really good stuff happening that did not come to full fruition. And I'm expecting it to follow all the way through in the second book, which I'm excited to read, but it's not out yet. If you like an Indigenous rep, post-apocalyptic books that kind of like snowed in cold vibe to it, it really did it for me. So obviously I give it 5 stars because I'm sitting here raving about it. So yeah, go check that one out. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. That is my November wrap up. If you watched the Maybe series last week, the vibe for December is a little different than what I would consider like December reading. My winter aesthetic is not very cheerful, so the December lineup is a little dark and I'm kind of loving it. I don't really know how December's gonna go for me. I don't really know what to expect, but we're just gonna take it one day at a time and see how it goes. So make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!